Isaac and welcome to our history presentation. Today you'll hear about the foreign policy of America between the years of 1920 and 1941. During this period, the presidents were Wilson, Harding, Coolidge, Hoover and Roosevelt. The foreign policy at the time had been described as isolationist due to some of their actions.
Jason, and the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is the Ford-Macomber tariff of 1922, which was an act passed to raise tariffs on imports into America in order to protect American factories and farms from becoming obsolete. It draws parallels to the Tariff Reform Act passed by Britain a decade earlier. The Smoot-Hawley tariff of 1930 served a similar purpose, raising tariffs on imports to record high prices in order to try and recoup finance from the crippling Wall Street crash of 1929, as well as attempting to boost American production to fulfill the same goal.
Thank you for that, Jason. When looking at any historical time period, we must also look at the events both before and after. Now, over to Ed.
Okay. Before 1920, Woodrow Wilson tried to make the USA join a global effort against future war, which he himself pioneered, named the League of Nations. Wilson encouraged other leaders such as George Clemenceau and David Lloyd George to join this new venture. However, Congress did not like the idea of the League because it meant that they may get involved in foreign wars and military isolationism was popular at the time. The motion was defeated by a vote of 55 against 39-4. This resounding defeat in Congress led the way for a period of isolationism in the US. However, on December 7, 1941, the Japanese military attacked Hawaii, effectively ending the American period of isolationism. America entered the war, bombing Japan in the process, attacking Hiroshima and Nagasaki with atom bombs.
Immigration was reduced by 700,000 people per year due to acts such as the Emergency Quota Act that restricted immigration from any given country to just 3% of the number of people from that country living in the United States in 1910. In 1924, the Immigration Act further hindered immigration by declaring that the amount of people migrating from any European nation could number only 2% of the population of that nation residing in America in 1890.
The Act of 1935 ceased aid and trade with belligerent countries and warring nations. This adoption of neutrality appears to reaffirm the attitude taken by the USA after World War I, where the overwhelming standpoint was to never be involved in overseas war again. In 1936, whilst renewing the Neutrality Act for a further year, Roosevelt said that America was only isolationist militarily, in order to avoid being drawn into worldwide conflicts that would harm the country.
Immigration was reduced by 700,000 per year due to acts such as the Emergency Quota Act that restricted immigration for any given country to just 3% of the number of people from that country living in the United States in 1910. In 1924, the Immigration Act further hindered immigration by declaring that the amount of people migrating from any European nation could number only 2% of the population of that nation residing in America in 1890.
Isolationist, but he was reluctant to enter foreign alliances due to the attitude left from World War I that America should not be involved in European affairs. He was not completely opposed to the League of Nations, but did not think it served American interests. His primary initiative was the Kellogg-Briand Pact, committing several large nations to renounce war as an instrument of national policy. This provided the foundation for international principle in World War II. Hoover laid the groundwork for FDR's good neighbor policy, withdrawing troops from Nicaragua and Haiti, as well as proposing an arms embargo upon Latin America, which was later fulfilled, as well as reducing global navies by 1/3, which became known as the Hoover Plan. An example of his isolationism is the removal of the Roosevelt Corollary, an act passed by Theodore Roosevelt in which America must intervene in conflicts between Europe and Latin America. His distaste for intervention is indicative of an isolationist viewpoint. The main foreign policy initiative of FDR's first term as president was the Good Neighbor policy that ceased treating Latin America as a sphere of American influence. America would no longer offer help to these countries and refused pleas from certain countries.